a few weeks ago, I was talking to a founder doing around 50K a month. From the outside, the business looks really solid, right? Good clients, decent revenue, busy calendar, team in place. But if you look behind the scenes in the details, it's a complete mess. Leads were inconsistent, sales calls were all over the place, fulfillment was getting slammed every time a new client comes in, and most importantly, the founder was waking up every morning stressed out. Checking Stripe just to make sure nobody has actually canceled or asked for a refund. And the craziest part, every time revenue really dropped a little, they thought that best answer was getting more leads. And I can honestly tell you that's not the best answer. You don't need more leads when your business is leaking everywhere. It's like pouring a water into a bucket with holes and hoping that it will fill up. And honestly, this is the problem with most businesses between 10 and 100K a month that I see. They're not actually scaling, they're surviving month to month with random spikes of revenue. They have one good month that convinces them entirely that everything is working. Then, if they have one bad month, it sends everybody into a panic and it feels like they are starting from ground zero again. And this means that's a volatility disguised as an actual growth. And most founders don't even realize what's actually killing them inside of the business because the bottlenecks are hidden inside the business, right? It's not obvious problems, it's operational problems. The kind that slowly choke growth while you keep blaming the market, the leads, the ads, the economy, your team, the sales. Meanwhile, the real issue is this. Your business cannot handle scale properly because it's not structured properly. That's why some businesses hit 20K a month and stay there for 3 to 4 to 5 years, plateaued at 20K. Others hit 50K a month and suddenly everything just breaks, right? Clients experience drops, fulfillment gets messy, sales become inconsistent, margins disappear, the founder becomes the actual bottleneck inside of the business. And then growth starts feeling heavy instead of actually exciting. So within this video, I'm going to break down the 5 bottlenecks I see killing service businesses over and over and over again. This is not a theory, not motivational garbage, but real operational problems that stop businesses from scaling predictably. And if you actually understand these, you will stop guessing what's wrong in your business and start seeing the real constraints clearly inside of your business that will help you to unlock not only the next level, but when you unlock the next level, you will be more stable, more predictable, and more controlled within your business. Because it's not always just getting to the next level, right? You can see a lot of people get to the next level, but when they get to the next level, it's even more messy, more chaos, more stress, more shit happening, right? If you don't want that, this video is going to show you what exactly to do and the 5 bottlenecks that I see and how to prevent them from happening inside of your business. So let's get into the video. So, before we get into the 5 bottlenecks, you need to understand one simple thing. Every business is constrained by something, always, at every stage. Doesn't matter what stage you are. You could be currently sitting at 10K, 20K, 30K, 40K, 50K, all the way to 100K, 200K, 1 million a month. You could be sitting 2 million a month, 10 million a month, or 100 million a year, okay? You always will have some type of constraint. It doesn't matter what type of business, what stage, there's always constraint. You solve one constraint and then you have a next constraint. When a business usually starts off, they have a constraint of a demand, getting consistently actual clients through the door, right? The next problem is conversion, how consistently we actually can convert those clients when they come into the door. And then I have a problem of actual decision making, delivery, and culture, and so on and so forth, okay? And then it's like always, how can we become better to what the level we currently have? So, the question is what the current limiting factor inside the business is, okay? Because once one bottleneck gets solved, another one always appears. The faster you solve the next bottleneck, the faster you unlock the next level inside the business. So you may solve one bottleneck now, the next one comes, you need to solve it again. That's how you always move up in levels inside the business, okay? That is called scaling. It's not motivation, it's not hustle, it's constraint management and constraint solving. The business that grows fastest are usually not the smartest, the most talented, or the most creative. They are the fastest at identifying and removing the actual bottlenecks, okay? So now let's speak about the actual bottlenecks. So the bottleneck number 1 is inconsistent actual pipeline. This is usually anywhere between stage 10 and 100K a month. So this is the first growth killer, okay? At this point, it creates almost every downstream problem in the actual business. Here's what it actually looks like. 1 month, you maybe have a good month, right? You have leads coming in, you do some closes, and then one time you again have a bad month, right? Then you maybe have a random inbound, relying on referrals, panic when leads actually slow down, and you're constantly starting over every single month. So most founders think at this stage, you know what, the solution would be getting more leads. And that's usually wrong, and I'm going to tell you why. Because what they actually need is predictability, not more leads, because unpredictable acquisition creates unstable actual operation. So why this happens? Most businesses rely on referrals, networking, random content, inconsistent outreach, and occasional actual ads. That's not a system, that's a luck with branding attached to it. The real framework here is you need traffic, you need leads, calls, and clients. So you need consistently get attention, you need to convert that attention into actual leads, you need to convert those leads into actual calls, and those calls into actual clients, predictably. The word that I want to emphasize is predictably. Not occasionally, but predictably. The goal is not more leads, the goal is controlled lead flow. If you control traffic, you control the lead flow. If you control the lead flow, you start also control the actual calls, okay? So the numbers matter here also. Let's say your close rate currently is 25%, you want 10 clients a month at 10K each, which would give you, let's say, 100K a month, okay? What you need currently is 40 sales calls. If 20% of leads book calls, right, you need 200 leads. Now the business becomes measurable. Most founders at this stage don't even know the math. They never do this math before. So you really need to go and work this backwards. You need to look at what your actual close rate currently is, right? Once you have figured out your close rate, then you can figure out how many clients you want, right? Let's say I need five clients. Then you can work out how much actual sales calls you will need. At 5 clients, you probably will need 20 sales calls if you are closing at 25%. That means you will need about 100 leads coming in, okay? Because usually you need to work the math backwards. Then you will start to understand what is your actual starting point. Most people say, I want 10 clients every single month without knowing how much actual leads they need to get inside of the business to get those 10 clients. So this is the math you already need to know. By knowing the math, I can honestly tell you, you're gonna be ahead of 80% of business owners, right? So what to fix first here? The first thing that I want you also to understand before we get into the fix is that most founders never do the math, and that's the reason they always stay stuck. So growth feels emotional instead of actual operational because you're always like, I need 10 clients, I need 10 clients, where do I get 10 clients? But if you really have re-engineered the maths, then you could say, you know, where do I actually get 50 leads, okay? So what to fix first? Focus in actual order. Number one is the acquisition channel. Don't have YouTube now, have, let's say, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, right? You need to have one acquisition channel, one clear offer, and one repeatable conversion process. Not branding refreshness, logos, complicated funnels, smart funnels, getting into colors and everything. You need just one acquisition channel. If it's Meta, like it's gonna be Facebook. If it's Instagram, it's gonna be Instagram. If it's YouTube, it's gonna be YouTube, but not have everything all over the place, okay? Once you have that, it becomes simple, predictable, and actually measurable as well, okay? So the bottleneck number 2. So once we have fixed the actual pipeline, we can move on to the second one, which is weak sales process. So usually it's like, okay, so now we have leads coming in. What is the next problem? The next problem is how do I convert those actual leads? This is where revenue leaks quietly, okay? A business can lose millions here without actually realizing it. And most founders think, I'm pretty good at sales. But when you audit the calls, there's no structure, too much talking, weak diagnosis, and no urgency and no clear actual gap. Most sales problems are not persuasion problems. Most problems are clarity problems. The prospect doesn't fully understand the problem, doesn't feel urgency, and doesn't trust the actual process. So I see this a lot of times. You have a business owner really having a lot of problems, right? He doesn't really want to open up on the call because he feels like the moment he opens up, usually the salespeople take advantage. They try to really put a sales pitch down his throat. And because of that, they don't usually also tell you what are the real problems. So your job as a closer, right? Your job as a closer wanting to help somebody is to really understand how can you understand the problem, and how can you show them that you understand the problem, and do they understand the problem they currently have? And you also need to make sure that they have the urgency to solve the problem immediately, because if they don't feel the urgency to solve the problem immediately, what ends up happening, nobody wants to really move, okay? There needs to be some type of urgency, okay? The same goes for trusting in the process. In order for them to trust in the process, they need to trust in you. I'm going to repeat that. In order for the prospect to trust the process, they need to trust in you. The reason they don't trust the process is because they don't trust in you. Why would they not trust in you? Is because you have not done a good job to really understand what the problem is to the core level. Okay, so what ends up happening at the end of the call, everything is delayed. Okay, so the biggest mistake, founders pitch too early. They explain before diagnosing, and that is killing the deals. Don't pitch too early. Sometimes I see like a prospect maybe opens up, says, hey, I have an XYZ problem. And the founder immediately jumps in like, oh, that's exactly what we do, blah, 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 without really going deeper, without really finding the deeper problems that they actually are having, okay? So a simple call framework, understand the current state, understand the desired state, identify the gap between where they are now to where they want to be and why they're not there, amplify the cost of staying the same or staying stuck, and present the solution. That's it. Sales is not about convincing, it's structured problem diagnosis. They diagnose the problem, show them where they are, where they want to be, the gap between, why it's not working, and then moving them on, okay? One small metric that changes everything. Track this, talk to listen ratio. If you are, let's say, speaking over 40 to 50% on the call, you're probably lowering the actual conversions, okay? If you spend more time speaking, the more time you use the call to speak, the less possibility you have at actual closing. I usually like to implement what's called the 20-80 rule, which means like 20% I will speak and 80% of the time the actual client will speak. I know it's sometimes really difficult to do because you want to interact and you want to speak and show how smart you are, but that's what is actually killing the deals, okay? Because the problem is this, the more you speak, the less they actually will trust you, okay? So bottleneck number 3 is the founder dependency. So this is where businesses stall hard around at 30K, 50K, and 100K, okay? Because the founder becomes sales, operations, fulfillment, strategy, and support. They become everything. And this is where usually the business starts to really stall because the founder is fully involved in everything. Why this kills growth? The business cannot scale beyond the founder's capacity. So growth creates slower delivery, burnout, lower quality, and bad client experience. More revenue, but worse actual business health. And this only happens when the business founder is fully involved in the business himself. So you do not scale by doing more, you scale by removing yourself from low leverage activities. What do I mean by low leverage activities? Like for example, from client communication, you going back and forth with clients, answering the email, doing like kind of virtual assistant stuffs. That's like a low leverage activity. If you are, for example, trying to answer questions for clients, low leverage activities. If you are instead of you actually working on what matters, you're working on the small things that doesn't matter. These are called the low leverage activities. You need to, most importantly, leverage your time into high leverage activities. So what high level operators focus on? Founders should eventually spend most time on strategy, acquisition, and key decisions, not chasing clients, fixing fulfillment, like taking out fires and like administration work. The hidden cost is this: if the founder becomes the bottleneck, decision speed slows, execution slows, and client experience also weakens. Everything compounds negatively. So the bottleneck number 4 here is broken fulfillment. This is the silent killer of most businesses that I have to speak to because the growth exposes weak delivery systems. A business gets more clients and suddenly you look at it and it's like, hey, quality drops, communication breaks, client churn, and the team gets overwhelmed. This usually happens because there's not enough standardization, not enough SOPs, not enough system processes inside of the business that help you to really leverage your time, leverage the actual revenue inside of the business. Usually what happens is here, right? You maybe hire somebody to help you to fulfill the clients. You hire them, they're not really trained. Now they ask you more questions, you are more frustrated. Maybe clients come in, you onboard one client X way, the other client you board in Y way, then the third client comes in and you completely onboard them differently. Every client consistently is giving a different amount of attention. Each client is being fulfilled differently. That means you have a broken fulfillment because nothing is standardized and actual systemized. So this is why scaling without fulfillment systems is really dangerous as well, because you're adding more clients, and because you're adding more clients and you have them like customized and randomly kind of fulfilling them, this is the main problem. Your fulfillment should be standardized and actually scalable. So what most businesses do wrong, they optimize for more clients instead of better delivery capacity, right? That's a huge difference. The real goal here is you don't want maximum clients, you want maximum sustainable throughput, right? That means controlled onboarding, standardized delivery, and clear communication systems, and have a realistic actual capacity. The most important thinking pattern here is every client creates operational weight. Bad clients create exponential operational weight for you, okay? This is why better qualification often scales faster than more lead generation. So you can have more leads, but if the more leads are not actually qualified, what ends up happening is those leads become more weight to your actual fulfillment, okay? So then we move on to the bottleneck number 5. There's no operating systems in place, and this is also a big no-no for businesses that want to scale. This is the root problem behind most chaos. The business has no dashboards, no KPIs, no visibility, and no process ownership. Everything lives in the people's head. What this creates is the founders make decisions actually emotionally because there's no visibility, we're not making systemized decisions, there are no KPIs, and there's no process ownership. So instead of actually we operating, we are making our decisions emotionally, and that creates reactive scaling, random decisions, and inconsistent execution. What real operators do instead, they build visibility, right? Simple metrics like lead volume, booked calls, close percentages, CAC, right? Cost per acquisition costs, client retention, fulfillment capacity, and profit margins. What gets measured gets actually optimized. If you can't measure, if you can't put a number on it or a percentage on it, it probably will not get optimized, and that's the reason why you're always stuck and why your business is leaking. Implementation framework that actually will fix this first. Here's where most businesses fail. They try fixing everything at once, right? Don't. You need to fix constraints in order. Like, you look at the biggest constraint currently, let's say it's demand, you fix one. Then you look, hey, we have a conversion problem, then you fix it. And then you move them in an actual order. Never start with like the lowest constraint. Start with the biggest constraint that's not currently giving you money or keeping the money in the actual business, okay? So step 1 here is fix pipeline stability. Without demand, nothing else matters. So you focus on one acquisition system, measurable lead flow, and predictable calls booked. Step 2 is fix conversion. Now optimize like call structure, diagnosis, sales processes, and qualifications. More leads without conversion is just wasted energy and a wasted actual leads. So sometimes you may have really qualified leads coming in, but if you can't convert them, you're just wasting the lead itself. And then step 3 is fix fulfillment. You need to protect the money that's also coming in the business. So you need to have delivery quality, right? Client experience and operational capacity. Growth should increase profit, not actual chaos. So what I mean by fixing fulfillment is you look at actual standardization. How can you have templates in place, standard processes that you don't need to repeat it again and again and again? To give you a good example, let's say, for example, onboarding every client takes you 1 hour. So what instead of you could do is you can send them a Loom and an actual welcome email. That takes all the 1 hour 1 hour per client out already, okay? Step 4 is remove founder bottlenecks, right? You document the processes, responsibilities, and workflows. The business must eventually function beyond the founder himself. The best gift you can give yourself as a business owner is to remove yourself from the business when the business can produce by itself, okay? And then what actually creates scale? Most businesses think scaling means more leads, more clients, more ads, more outreach. Usually that's wrong. Real scale comes from better systems, fewer bottlenecks, operational clarity, predictable throughput. That's how businesses become stable. And stability scales faster than actual chaos every single time. If you are serious about getting to the next level inside of your business, you need to stop guessing what actually is currently broken inside of your business. Because most businesses don't stay stuck because of effort alone. They stay stuck because they are fixing the wrong problems, scaling too early, relying on inconsistent client flow, and building growth on unstable foundation and systems. That exactly is why I created the roadmap for scaling. It breaks down what to fix first, at what stage, what actually is slowing down your growth, and how to build a predictable client acquisition, and most importantly, how to scale without breaking fulfillment every time revenue goes up. Because getting to the next level is not about working harder or putting more hours. It's about removing the bottlenecks that are capping your business growth right now. So if you want the roadmap, you have to go to my Instagram. The link is below in the description, and DM me the word roadmap and I will send it to you completely for free, because that's the fastest way for you to actually scale your business. I have mapped out exactly everything from 10K all the way to 100K, what exactly breaks at each stage and how to fix it and what systems you need to install. Also, if you really enjoyed this video, subscribe now, because I post about 1 to 3 times a long form content that will help you to not only diagnose your business, but unlock the next level by understanding exactly what you need to do and what is happening inside of your business. Also, like this video and comment down below if I can make a video related exactly to your situation, and I will do my best to help you out. Also, comment down below if you need any additional help, maybe in a stage you currently are and you're trying to fix some things. I will make sure I read all the comments, take my time, and I will reply to you directly, making sure that you get the best attention you can possibly have.